Schleich. I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, in a little suburb called Bethany. My husband was the one that truly loved Red Wing pottery. In fact, he never saw a piece he didn't love, and consequently the 5,000 pieces that we donated to the museum. I really was just kind of along for the ride, but there were pieces that I really enjoyed. And probably the 70-gallon jug was really something that the whole family enjoyed. It was in Milligan, Nebraska, and it had been there for like 60 years, basically kind of buried in the ground, but it had a cork in it so it didn't get water inside of it. And this gentleman had bought it up in Minnesota when he came up to buy a steam engine. And so there's a couple stories. One story is that they wouldn't sell the steam engine to him unless he took that off their hands. And the other one was that he wanted it and they sold it to him for 50 cents. And so anyway, it wound up in his barn in Milligan, Nebraska, and he had the junkiest farm with old cars, old steam engines. But when he passed away, they decided to have an auction, and the people in Minnesota heard about this jug, and Jerry heard about it, Jerry being my husband. And so we sent a friend down, and this friend, it was in the early 90s, and he had his phone, the ones that were shaped like a brick, you know, and he had to stand on top of his van to call us to tell us where the bid was. So anyway, then these people from Minnesota whom we did not know were bidding also, and they had $8,000 to buy it, is what Larry told me later on, and that didn't do it. And we paid $12,200 or something. We paid more for that than we did the first house we built in 1961. But anyway, that's how we got it. You did not know Jerry. Jerry didn't take no for an answer. So, well, if you'd been in our home and just look around here, we collected it all. Started out with stoneware, had a lot of water coolers, the crocks in every size, and we could display them for a while in our home because that's the way it is. But it got so, you have to dust all that stuff, and it just got so overpowering. And I said, we can't just keep collecting this stuff. And so then we went to art pottery, and then we went to dinnerware, and so we had it all. And it was strictly Red Wing. He just, like I say, he never saw a piece he didn't love, and so we had quite the collection. Well, that was strictly Jerry's idea, because he realized that we needed to put it someplace where more people could see it, for one thing. And he was very much into people learning about it. More, it's an educational thing. Probably more so in Lincoln than in Red Wing, Minnesota, because we just had a lot of people come through the museum. And it was in his office building, and it was 1,700 square feet, and there were 90-some cabinets. He had them all built, and some of them are up here now. So it was really kind of unique for Lincoln to have all this stuff from Minnesota. Actually opened it in 2001, I believe. And we had a ribbon cutting. The mayor of the city came and cut the ribbon, and it was quite the big deal. Had a lot of people come through. And then Jerry passed away in 2005, and I kept it open until 2013. Then it got to the point, okay, what's going to happen to this upon my demise? And so I did not want to leave it to my children to try to figure out. And so I was on the foundation board for about 9 years, and finally we found this place here, and it was very conducive to bringing my collection up. So, and Larry was behind that. He was the organizer as far as getting it packed up and up here. He and Barb Brown, she did such a fantastic job. It's funny, I still get phone calls, people that want to go through the museum. And I just tell them, well, you need to go up to Red Wing, Minnesota. But it wasn't that we had so many people through there, but we'd have, I would probably do on an average 4 or 5 tours a month. And there would be groups. I never wanted any more than 10 to 15 because the space just didn't, you just couldn't do it very well. Well, in the first place, it was a really big relief for me to have it in a place that I knew that it was going to be taken care of. And we always joke that if my kids had had to get rid of it, I have a son that probably would have taken a box and piled a bunch of stuff in it and sold it for $5, you know. So it was really relief to me to get it up here and have, so it has such a good home. And it's just fun to come and look at it again. And I have friends that will come up, and in fact, just the other day, I volunteer at the hospital, and one of our members of our chapter came in and he said, I've got to tell you, we were just up in Red Wing. And of course, he'd been through the museum in Lincoln, and he was so impressed how everything is displayed here. It was absolutely amazing. And the gentleman that just walked through here, he was one that would leave here, come down, load up his truck, come back and dump and have it all unloaded here, take a couple hours nap, and then hit the road again and do the same thing over. It was amazing. Barb Brown took a picture of every piece that went in there. You'd have a box with, like, if it was art pottery, on top of the box would be a list of everything that was in there with the number, like if it was an ashtray and it had a number. And she did a fabulous job. I don't know, we couldn't have done it without her. And we just had a lot of people come in and help. The different chapters came. Larry kept everybody well fed. And it was amazing how. And it took about a week, didn't it? The only time I had any problem with it was when we went to do the 70 gallons. Yeah. And they were going to put it in the truck, and I thought, no. And Steve Brown said, I will put it in the back of my Pilot. And he had quilts and things, and we wrapped it all up so it really couldn't move in there. And then I felt much better because I thought, no, it's not going in the back of a truck. Pretty amazing, really, when you look at everything that came. There were over 5,000 pieces that they brought up here. So, well, it's our past. And I think it's a great idea because, you know, children now, they all have their iPads or whatever, and to actually see and try to learn what it was like 100 years ago, it's kind of mind-boggling for me. Just in my lifetime, the things that have changed are just so amazing. And I did have a group of, I think they were 4th graders through, and it was fun to show them the chamber pots and say, you know,
gotta go there.
So this is what you used at night, otherwise you had to go down the path. And it's just so amazing for them to really realize how things were and how far we've come in, 150 years? He worked very, very hard in our real estate business, and it was really an outlet for him. And he made many, many, many friends in the Red Wing Society. He was an officer, and it just was so good for him. So, you know, I wasn't going to say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. It wouldn't have done any good anyway, so. Well, he never came home with it. We would come up here and we would buy different items. And I've always loved the crocks with the elephant ear. Those were my favorite. In fact, I still have a couple at home. he started bidding against this doctor that was from South Dakota. And I thought, oh, criminy. And so they just kept going and going. And she, then when it was over, I think it was 4,500, she dropped out. And then her husband came up to us later and said, I am so relieved and I would love to take you out to dinner. So one of the things I really loved was the bird bath. And it has a little thing where the birdies can sit and then drink water. And I actually bought that at auction to put in my backyard. And my husband said, you don't put $600 bird baths in your backyard. I mean, there's some pieces I really like the bread basket or container. And Nebraska did that as their commemorative, and it was really, really popular. And the other day, I have one in my kitchen up above on the cabinets, and one of my granddaughters told me, I want that. You know? So I put her name on it so that when I'm no longer around, she'll have that. Well, I thought it was a container, a bread box basically, and there's a round hole that had a piece of screen on it so that, you know, bugs and mice and things couldn't get into it.
Louise, thank you for what you've done for both the pottery world and for Red Wing.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
Thank you, man.